Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/talesfromthefrontdesk, where people who work in hotels tell us their best and craziest stories they've had while on the job. If you're new around here, please do hit subscribe down below so that you never miss out on another video. But for now, let's sit back, relax, and enjoy some Reddit stories. Are you Ellen? This happened a few years back. I pull into the parking lot of my resort to start my night audit shift, and I spy two buses unloading at the front doors. I knew then I was not going to be in for a good night. The buses are usually scheduled to arrive several hours before my NA shift starts, which means that if there are any issues with the buses, they are usually taken care of before I come in, and I don't have to worry about anything. This was not the case this night. The buses were scheduled to arrive hours earlier, but for some reason or another, they didn't come until 10:30 PM. The bus people were not happy about this, and neither was their leader. I go in the back door, and as I'm walking the hall toward the front desk, I heard it, the wail of the gargoyle. As I got closer, it got louder and angrier. I walked behind the front desk, and across from the desk, there it sat, in one of our lobby chairs. A truly shrewish hag, if there ever was one. Picture Ma Fratellly from the Goonies, but spookier. This apparently was the tour director of the two buses, and she wanted to speak to our front desk manager, Ellen, not her real name, and she wanted to speak to her now, by God. How do I know she wanted to speak to Ellen? Because before I even got chance to clock in, she looked me straight in the face and bellowed, "Are you Ellen?" Now, I've been called a lot of things in my life. Some true, others not so much. But one thing I am not is an Ellen. I'm a dude, a pretty burly looking dude too, with a fair amount of facial hair. I'm not going to be mistaken for a woman anytime soon, let's just say. But still, she bellowed again, "Are you Ellen?" "God, I hope not," I replied as I clocked in and went to work counting the drawer and ignoring her as a couple other employees were dealing with her. "Are you Ellen?" she yelled at anybody who walked past her, male or female, employee or guest. "I need to talk to Ellen." Fortunately, our front desk manager, Ellen, was there helping out with luggage. Ellen is a saint. She stood and listened as this harpy tore her a new one over the inadequate rooms we had for her group, despite the fact that there was nothing wrong with any of the rooms whatsoever, and for the awful bus ride from whatever backwater hellhole they came from to our backwater hellhole. That wasn't our problem at all. It was an outside bus group which contacted with us. We had no control over the transportation whatsoever, which Ellen relayed onto her. After what felt like an eternity, Bavmorda, Queen of the Trolls, waddled back to her room and I never saw her again for the entire stay. We did receive an email from Ellen a couple days later, saying that this group would not be welcomed back. And to that, there was much rejoicing. Imagine there was a random guest whose actual name was Ellen, just happened to be walking by and just be like, "Oh yeah, I am," and then they just started getting screamed at. That'd be funny. Apparently, working the night audit means I'm the resident cop. So, last night, I get a call from one of our guests telling me someone had just stolen things from her room. She then told me the thief's name and what kind of car she drove. Obviously, someone she knew. I tell her I'll call the police immediately. She then screams at me that there's no time for that and that the thief is getting away. She orders me to stop the lady myself. I explain to her that I'm not a police officer and that I'm not legally allowed to put my hands on anyone. I tell her that all I can do is call the authorities, but I can't do that until she lets me off the phone. She starts yelling at me again. Click. I hung up so that I could call the police. I make the call and then hope the rest of my night is quiet. Not 5 minutes later, someone from another room comes down and asks me to take her name off the room. After I gave her a blank stare for a moment, she explained that her sister was in the room, threatening to trash the place, and she didn't want to be held responsible. I did my best to calmly explain to her that it doesn't work that way. The moment she signed for the room, she took responsibility for it, and if she didn't want to be responsible for any damages, she'd better get her sister out of the room before there were any. I told her that if she couldn't do it herself, I'd be happy to call the police to do it for her. At the mention of the police, her face paled. "Can't you do it?" she asked. For the second time in a matter of minutes, I found myself having to explain to someone that, as I'm not a police officer, I can't arrest or even touch anyone. She walked away, clearly angry at me for being lazy. Even though I was pretty sure she didn't want me to, I called the police anyway. Shortly after that, guest number 1 comes to my desk and angrily tells me that it's my fault the thief got away and that she was going to sue, etc. I told her the police should be here anytime and she went back to her room. Of course, when the police arrived, neither one of them answered their doors. Sometimes I hate this place. At least I got the next couple of days off. Well, that was really confusing. And then someone in the comments replied with their story, which was similar. About a year ago, a guy came up to the desk and this happened. Do you own all that building behind the hotel? No. Well, someone standing outside of the building stole my phone and wallet. What should I do? Well, if you got mugged, you should call the police. I didn't get mugged. A woman asked if she could use my phone. I let her and she ran off with it and my wallet. So, you got mugged. Here's a phone. Call the police. Thanks for nothing. The random guy storms off. First, what was he expecting me to do? Hand him my phone and wallet and apologize for the inconvenience of being robbed outside of a building that isn't even affiliated with mine? Second, still not sure how his wallet even got involved in this story. When the guy said, "Oh, here's a phone, call the police," I was expecting the random guy to just take the phone and run. Hotels are private property. I am just seething right now. It's 2:45 AM and I had a group of 4 people come in a little after 2:30, obviously kicked out of whatever bar they were drinking at. They sat down on the couches in the lobby, and I figured they were staying here and maybe were just killing a few minutes before going to bed, as some groups do after drinking. Then, 2 of them head upstairs and I see on the camera that they're in the Crystal Ballroom. I work in a 96-year-old hotel. The ballroom is a big deal and very pretty, but also very closed at 2:30 AM with all the lights off. I go up there and tell them to leave. They then rejoin their friends at the lobby. 2 minutes ago, they all hopped in a cab and left. I am so mad at myself that I didn't tell them off for so blatantly trespassing. The kicker is that I have been keeping the doors open specifically for guests who had been out drinking, since we don't have magnetic locks on the door. But lesson learned, doors will now be locked at 11 PM regardless of what day it is. I just don't understand how people think hotels are just there for the public, and people can just come and go wherever and whenever they please, even if they aren't staying there. If the person on the job isn't busy, what they should do is just lock the door behind them and then just call the police. That way you get something exciting happening. Someone was in a room for 2 days without us knowing. So this guy checks in on the 13th. His company is paying for 2 rooms, one for himself and one for his co-worker. Their stay was supposed to be the 13th to the 17th, but for some reason he got checked out on the 15th. My guess as to what happened was that housekeeping went up to clean the room and called down to the front desk to say that there was nothing in the room. Our head housekeeper was working that day, and while she is very good at her job, she is very nosy and pushy. I think she basically told our front desk attendant to check out that room, and for some reason, the front desk attendant just did it without looking at the fact that the room was prepaid by the company. The other room, paid for by the company, was still there and the checkout date wasn't for 2 more days. So, obviously, this guy was still using the room. They didn't even override the room key. We are extremely lucky he came down to the desk on the 17th to say he was checking out, and lucky we didn't put someone else in that room since it was marked as vacant. If he hadn't stopped by the front desk, then we never would have known he was even there. Ugh. So, word of advice, don't check someone out before their checkout day without confirming it with them. It will definitely make your front desk managers cranky. Or maybe he's having an affair with the colleague he's traveling with. That's why he's nothing in his room, because he's sleeping in the other room. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now, or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.